Simple table salt. Could this be the answer to the environmental problems caused by mining for lithium iron phosphate batteries? We're going to test the new Bluetti Pioneer sodium battery, and this gets its battery tech from simple table salt. Let's dig into this.
Cheers.
Hi there, I'm Marky Mark. Welcome to Camping Secrets. Today I want to talk about a brand new battery technology which is out now from Bluetti, and it's the first I've heard of it. It's sodium being used as the battery anode in the cells, and I'm sure you're all aware that lithium is the traditional element used in new battery technology for cars. Lithium iron phosphate, lithium nickel metal hydride. The problem with lithium is, although it's very efficient in terms of the battery performance, it's very environmentally unsound. It's difficult to extract from the ground. It uses a lot of water in that extraction process, and it's often being mined in places where there is not much water. So using water to extract that lithium is bad for the environment, places like Chile. It's also difficult to recycle. So there's a massive impact with using lithium iron phosphate or the older lithium metal hydride. Sodium, on the other hand, is a similar metal to lithium, but it's much more abundant because it is in sodium chloride table salt, which is found in seawater, it's found in the earth, and it's a very simple electrolysis process to extract sodium from sodium chloride. And it doesn't use that water to extract it. It is much more recyclable, it's cheaper to produce, so sodium is potentially the future. Now Bluetti have come up with this power pack. It's the Pioneer Sodium Power Pack. It's currently retailing for £799 in the UK, and that's the introductory price. There are pros and there are cons to sodium, and we're gonna get into it, but I think if you are environmentally minded, then it probably is a good option. One of the main pros of sodium is that this will work down to really low temperatures, allegedly down to minus 15 degrees centigrade, which is very, very low indeed. So if you're living in colder regions in the Nordics, or Alaska or somewhere like this, and you want to use one of these in your log cabin, I would certainly go for sodium because it will work down to much lower temperatures than lithium. One of the negatives is it is not quite as efficient as the lithium iron phosphate cells. We'll measure the performance of this in our usual tests and we'll report back at the end of the video. But on paper, it's not so good. It's also fairly heavy. This is 16 kilograms and it's got 900 watt hours of capacity. Now, the similarly sized Bluetti Elite V2 had more capacity, and that's because it used the lithium cells rather than the sodium. And that was over a kilowatt hour of capacity, and this is only 900. So you're getting less capacity for the same size unit, and it is quite heavy, as I say, 16 kilograms. I had to carry it to the park here today to show it to you, and I was using one hand and I was pretty tired by the end. So it's the standard setup from Bluetti. I'm really pleased to announce that they've brought back the wireless charging. It's a little thing of mine I've mentioned on the recent Bluetti power packs. Bluetti had removed wireless charging, but it's back with the Pioneer, so that's great. You can put your phone on here and charge it. It's Bluetti's little trademark, I think, and I've always liked it, so it's good to sit back. We've got the flat top here with the two-handle approach. Again, that's Bluetti's sort of modern design architecture. On the front, we've got the Bluetti screen. Long press of the power button to get the screen on. You probably can't see it here. We've got input power, output power, time to discharge, time to recharge, etc. We got DC activator, AC activator here. We got a 12 volt output, so for powering your cool box or whatever you need from that. And we got two AC inverter outputs, 230, 240 volt in the UK. This will give 1.5 kilowatts of output power from the inverter, and it will surge up to 2.2. Dimensions are 340 millimeters by 247 deep by 317 tall. So it's effectively square here with a thinner back. And we have one USB-C 100 watt output, and then we have four USB-A's here. And these are just standard 5 volt 3 amp, which is 15 watts per USB-A. So they're not the super high power fast charge USB-A's, which is a little downside. In terms of charge, discharge, recycles, you may be worried whether sodium can keep up with lithium iron phosphate, but I'm pleased to say that Bluetti say this can do 4,000 cycles, and at that point you'll have 70% of your initial capacity left. 4,000 cycles, that is a lot. I mean, if you're using it every day, you would do 360 per day, so that would last over 10 years at charging and discharging this fully every day for 10 years, and you'd still have 70% left of your 900 watt hours. No one's going to use it that much, I don't think, so in real life you're going to get much longer than 10 years. So it's good to know that the sodium is going to last a long time in this. On the side we've got a charge point here, uses a standard kettle plug input here. You've got an earthing point, and you've got a sort of reset here, circuit protector, so if you overload it, this pops out and cuts the power, and then you just pop that back in to get it going again. On the bottom you've got nice rubber pads to keep it stable, and pretty much that's it. You've got an input here, and let's just go through what you get in the box in terms of cables, because I have been a little bit critical of Bluetti recently, because not only did they get rid of the wireless charging, but they didn't give a car charge cable in the box. But with the Pioneer, this is back. So this is great. You can just plug this into this port here, and then you can charge this in your car. Now, you know, you could get these for the Bluetti Elite, etc., but it was about 20 quid extra to pay for this, so it's really nice that they're back to supplying all the cables you really need. You also get a solar charging cable, and they all go into this front bit here. So that's an MC4, and that can connect to your solar panel, so you can charge this and use it at the same time. So yeah, you can charge and discharge at the same time and read it all on the screen or on the smartphone app which comes with it. And then of course you get a mains charging cable as well, which is just a standard kettle lead, plugs inside, and you can charge this up. In terms of input power from charging, from the mains it's got a maximum input power of 1.4 kilowatts. So not as high as some, which I've seen a lot of power packs go over 2 kilowatts, sometimes 2.4. 1.4, because the capacity is not that high, it doesn't make much difference. So you can charge from 0% up to about 80% in about 45 minutes. If you want to go from 0 to 100, it's just over an hour, about 65 minutes. With solar as well, you've got a maximum input of 500 watts, and you can charge with mains and solar at the same time for a total combined of the 1.4 plus the 500 of 1.9 kilowatts. So that's quite nice, and in the app you can change the proportion that comes from solar or from mains. You can sort of tell it to proactively go for the solar in preference to the mains, which is nice. So that's pretty much the key features. What can I use this thing for? Let's go and have a look. So I've activated the AC and DC. I've got my cool box, my water inside. I want to cool that down. Now this is a dual power cool box. I can use mains or I can use 12 volt. So I'm just going to use the 12 volt here. Fan is powering up. Okay, now so I want a cup of tea. What can I do? I've got my little travel kettle here. I can activate the AC as I've done and plug it in here. Now this is a 1 kilowatt kettle, and this has got an output, a steady state output of 1.5 kilowatts. So a 1 kilowatt kettle is not going to cause any trouble. Just whack that on there, open the lid, then we need some water. Luckily I've got my cool box and my water inside, so let's grab that. So obviously it's a bit stupid to have cooled my water and then heat it up in the kettle, but it's just a demonstration, kids, don't worry too much. So let's fill up the kettle. So I'll just put in about half a litre for my cup of tea. There we go. Pop that on top. Then if I want to chill my water for a cool drink later, pop it back in the cool box. Okay, so what are we measuring? Let's turn that kettle on. We're on. Let's see what we're measuring. So we've got 1.124 kilowatts of total power coming out. Now on the screen here, it doesn't distinguish between AC and DC. So we can have a look on the smartphone app as that's boiling and see if we can distinguish that. So just firing up the app here, and you can see the device in the available devices, just using Bluetooth to connect to the power station. And here is the main screen of the smartphone app, and you can see that it shows all the power that's being used, both DC, which is 65 watts, that's the cooler running on 12 volt output, and then we've also got the kettle boiling at 1.1 kilowatts on AC. You can see we've got 20% capacity remaining in the Pioneer battery pack. One thing to be seen is that you don't get a time left for amount of discharge on the app. This is the settings. We can change the screen timeout. I'm changing it so that it does not turn off. You've also got powerlifting mode and fast charge turbo mode. So we're going to turn it to turbo charging for our tests later. We'll also put on powerlifting mode. Powerlifting mode is so that you can run higher than 1.4 kilowatt devices, but you run them at 1.4 kilowatt. That can be resistive loads like a kettle or a heater or things like that. In the advanced settings, we can also change things like the protection time, over voltage settings, and also adjust the ratio of solar to mains charging. Also factory reset there. Nice little tea bag. Beautiful. That's the life. So what else could this thing be used for? Well, if you're camping, you might have a blow-up bed. This is a mains powered mattress. Made by a company called Aerobed. We don't typically use this when camping, but it is quite handy in a tent if you've got a little external tent. And it is just very simple. It's basically a mattress connected to a motor which sucks air in and pumps up the mattress. And this is perfect for the Pioneer. We can just plug this in. And remember, the cool box is still going here. Then we can just turn this bad boy on. Start inflating. And of course, this can be used to pump up any inflatable item. You know what I'm talking about. So that's only 180 watts, absolutely no problem. Quick as a feather, and you're pumped up. I mean, how convenient is that? So that's the kind of application that the Bluetti Pioneer can be used for, and it works well. So as I said in the intro to this video, sodium as a battery metal is better than lithium because you can run this down to much lower temperatures. And the specifications say it can go down to minus 15 degrees centigrade and actually be discharged down at minus 25 degrees centigrade. Now, our freezer here is set at minus 18. I'm going to put this in the freezer, although it doesn't quite fit, that's the problem. Let it cool down for half an hour or so, and then I'm going to discharge it and see if it works. So let's whack it in the freezer. It's just not deep enough, unfortunately. Kind of fits, but let's pop it in. And the door doesn't quite shut, but it will still cool it down nicely, I think. So while the Pioneer Power Pack is cooling in the freezer, I thought I would check on the smartphone app what the temperature of the device was, because this is a headline feature of this sodium-based power pack, and being able to take it down to minus 15 or lower is, you know, a key feature. So you would have thought it would be a simple matter to check on the app what the temperature of your device is to see if it's safe to still use it. Because if you're at minus 40, you're in Alaska or something, then you may not, you wouldn't be able to use it. But no, there is no way of measuring the temperature on the app as far as I can tell. So please leave comments in the description if I'm missing something here. But surely Bluetti could have put that in the app or even on the screen, what the measured temperature of the device is. So I'll continue to let it cool down to around minus 18, minus 15, minus 18. And, you know, I'll just have to trust that it's at that temperature when we test it. So the Bluetti Pioneer now has been in for around half an hour. The freezer door has been open, but it is much colder in there. So I'm going to just discharge that power pack using this. So it is cold. And this is just a simple test to see if it works down at around minus 10 to minus 15. Probably. It is cold to the touch. I don't have a thermometer to measure it, unfortunately. But this is really just to see will it work at cold temperatures. So we've got the AC on. So it's a slightly silly test, but just going to run that 5-10 minutes and just check that it doesn't trip out or anything. So that's been running for around 5-10 minutes now, and no problems whatsoever with the device in the freezer. 1.1 kilowatts. We nearly flattened the battery actually. We only started around 15%, it's down to 7 now. I'm just going to take that all the way down to 0, and then we'll look at charge times. So the Pioneer is down to 0%. I'm just going to do a simple charge test of mains up to 100%, and I'll note the 80% and 100% times. This can take in input power of 1.4 kilowatts maximum. And so I'm expecting around 45 minutes up to 80%, and then just over an hour to 100%. So let's plug that in. That should start charging, and then I'll start the stopwatch and come back when we're done. So starting input power is around 400 watts. We're at 2%, and I think as that ramps up to maybe 5% capacity, hopefully that power will increase to about 1.4 kilowatts. 12 minutes are down now and we are up to over a kilowatt. Not quite at the maximum 1.4, but about 1.1. So 0.7 hours to full charge. I would like to see that in minutes, not 0.7. But I guess 0.7 is about 40 more minutes to full charge. Now we're up at 1.4 kilowatts maximum power, and it's saying another 30 minutes to full charge. So we're nearly at 80% and around 43 minutes. 80, yeah, 43 minutes. So the charge time was pretty respectable actually. So I measured 43 minutes from 0% to 80%, and Bluetti said it would be around that time. And then from 0% up to the full 100% was about 64 minutes, an hour and 4 minutes. And Bluetti said it would be about an hour and 5 minutes, 65. So pretty much bang on there. But you should remember that this is only 900 watt hours of capacity. And that charge time, yes, it's reasonable, but the capacity is slightly lower than lithium iron phosphate battery packs of similar size, like the AC180 or the Elite V2. So yeah, it's fast, but you've got to put it in context there. Now we're going to do a discharge test. We're going to take it from the 100% all the way down to 0. And we're going to measure how much power can get extracted from the battery, and then we can work out the efficiency of this power station. And this is really interesting because it is new technology. It is sodium battery technology, and so I'm really interested to see, is it as efficient as lithium iron phosphate? Some power packs recently, especially the Elite V2 from Bluetti with aero-grade lithium iron phosphate batteries, I measured over 90% efficiency, almost 95%, which is incredible. Will the sodium technology be close to that? I have no idea at this stage. So we'll plug this in. I'm using my own power meter, and that will measure accurately how much power gets pulled out of here. And we know it's got 900 watt hours on paper. How close to 900 watt hours will I actually measure? And then we can work out that efficiency. So let's do it. I'll just plug it in, turn on the device, power pack, and then we shall put on the heater. Now I'm going to be drawing out about 1200 watts, maybe 1100 watts, and we'll run at that. So let's activate AC, and we should turn on. Oh, have we tripped? I think we've tripped there. So let's just turn off 2 of those things. I've found if you trip it, you have to turn it off and back on again. Activate AC. Okay, the heater's on there, 400 watts. Let's put on another bar. Now we're at 770 watts. Let's put on the final bar. Now we're at 1.124 watts. We'll do that. We'll measure how much electrical power is drawn out of the power station. It's saying it will run for 0.9 hours at this rate, but we'll see. So you've got that 0.9 hours there remaining. I'd rather see that in minutes. 31% left. We're at about 6 kilowatt hours. It's getting to the end now. We're at 820 watt hours consumed. 1%, 830. And we're off. So we powered the heater from 100% down to 0%, and it used 830 watt hours of power. And this is a 900 watt hour power pack. So 830 divided by 900 is 92% efficient, which is extremely good. But just remember that the battery capacity of this Pioneer is non-expandable. There's no way of adding another battery. It's just a self-contained module. So yeah, you just got to work out, is 900 watt hours or 830 real watt hours enough for you? And will it, power all the things you want? Especially if you don't have access to solar or mains to recharge it up. Is that enough? Anyway, what I want to do now is I want to look at UPS functionality. There's nothing in the instructions or on the website about UPS, and by UPS I mean uninterruptible power supply. So I'm going to just test it and see if it does work as a UPS, even though Bluetti have not mentioned anything about that. So what I'm going to do is just over here, let's just move the camera. What I normally do to test UPS functionality is get my Xbox and TV running off the power pack. So I can quickly do that here with this plug. And then I can plug into the wall the Pioneer power station. So I'm powering the power station now from the mains, and then I've got the output on, and I will be powering the Xbox and the TV at the same time. So let's just turn the TV on, prove it's working. That's all running off the Bluetti right now. So if I go onto Xbox, sorry, I should have had this set up. Anyway, that's all running. You can even see my Xbox ID if you want. So what UPS functionality means is we're running this power station off the mains and then running our important equipment off the power station at the same time. In this case, it's my Xbox and my TV, both running off this, but it could be a medical device or something similar that you just do not want to turn off. And then if there's a mains failure, which I will simulate by turning off the mains, but in reality it could just be a power cut, does your equipment carry on working? So what I'll do now is on the count of 3, I'll turn off the plugs and we'll see if it switches to battery power and we don't lose the Xbox. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. You can see it's all up and still running, and now we're purely on battery power. So there is UPS functionality in there, but there's just no information on the website or in the instructions. So all I can say, I can't tell you on the speed, but it's fast enough to switch and keep up a computer or Xbox. Worth knowing. So what are my conclusions of the Bluetti Pioneer sodium battery pack or power station? Well, it's an interesting one, this, because I'm always behind new technology, and I applaud Bluetti for coming out with this. Sodium, by all accounts, is much easier to extract from the earth, much more environmentally friendly, easier to recycle, simpler chemistry, simpler battery pack technology, and allegedly cheaper to make. So I totally applaud Bluetti for doing this. But what are the advantages if you don't care so much about the environmental impact? Well, let's just say this is a heavy power pack. It's 16 kilograms for only 900 watt hours of capacity. Other Bluetti power stations will give you more capacity in a very similar sized unit, for instance, the AC180 or the Elite V2. And it's not expandable either, so you can't add another battery to this. That being said, it's a compact device. It's got 4 USB-As, 1 USB-C, a reasonable inverter, 1.5 kilowatts, which can surge up to 2.25. It's got the wireless charging on the top. And overall, it's worked well in my tests. It achieved 92% efficiency, which is extremely good. There is only a 3-year warranty, which I'm surprised by because Bluetti always met the standard of 5 years of warranty. So 3 years, is there a reason why it's set at 3 years? So that's something to bear in mind. In terms of the sodium battery itself, they reckon that this will do 4,000 cycles of charge-discharge, and you're still at 70%. So that's well over 10 years of continuous use using this. So I would not worry about reliability or longevity. But that 3-year warranty, it's a slight concern. And I wonder if Bluetti will extend that in the future. Another advantage of the sodium technology is that it will run and operate at much lower temperatures than standard lithium-ion phosphate, down to minus 25 degrees centigrade actually for discharge purposes, or minus 15 for charging. Now I put it in the freezer, and I know that's not a great test. The door was slightly open, but it worked well in the freezer, so I've got nothing to make me think that it doesn't live up to what Bluetti say in that sense. So overall, what's my thoughts? Would I buy it? One thing just to say on that freezer test, there was no indication of the temperature of the device anywhere. Nothing on the screen, nothing on the app. And another thing about the screen that I slightly don't like, but it's the same on all Bluettis, is that when you're below 1 hour of charge time remaining, it doesn't switch to minutes. I mean, if it says 0.9 hours left, I don't know what that is. Why can't it just say 51 minutes? Why does it say 0.9? It just seems really inaccurate. I just would, Bluetti, if you could change it to minutes when you're under an hour, that would be great for me, I think. Or at least just put an indication on the app in minutes. That would be great. The current price, it's just been launched, is £799 in the UK. I think it's, it does work well. I think it's good. Would I buy it over an AC180 or even better, the Elite V2? I don't think so. I think my personal view is I'd like slightly more capacity. 900 watt hours is good, but it is heavy, this. I was carrying it around with one hand to do some filming and it felt a little heavy. So for me, my personal favorite is still the Elite V2 for slightly more money, but you get more capacity, you get more power, and you get more USB-Cs. I would prefer 2 USB-Cs rather than 1. That's just my personal preference. I tend to use USB-C more these days. I do like that the wireless charging is back on the top, so thank you Bluetti for that. Overall, it seems a good device. If you need the cold weather operation, if you live in a cold climate, or you're going to use this in an unheated house in the winter or a log cabin or something, then it's a no-brainer to go for the Pioneer because of that performance. It also is water resistant. You've got little covers over things. See here, a little rubber cover. It is water resistant. So again, if you want that, it is worth having. Overall, yes, it's a good power pack, 92% efficiency, but I think it's a kind of niche product at this stage. I would go for it if you want that cold temperature performance. Otherwise, I think, there's other, even Bluetti power stations that I would probably go in preference, and that's just my personal preference. Anyway, that's my test of the Bluetti Pioneer sodium pack, and I hope it was of some use. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to this video. It helps us carry on the channel, and we will be doing more videos in the future. So anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.